What a pleasure for me tonight to be here to talk to you about a dear friend of mine who's made a significant difference in my life. And for all of us, and I think many of us do share, a history of and a loss of family in the Holocaust, we all owe a tremendous amount to Georgette Mosbacher. Before I talk about Georgette, when I was up here last year, I had the great honor of recognizing Marion Wiesel, and tonight Alicia and Lynn are here, and they do so much great work for Israel, for Jewish people, and I'm very lucky to have them as friends, and I admire both of you very much. Okay, so a little bit about Georgette. She's a great friend of the Jewish people. She's a great American. She's a great supporter of Israel, and she's been a great friend to me, and boy, are you lucky if you have Georgette as a friend. And she's the United States ambassador to Poland at a time when we really need her. You know, several years before Georgette took over, we invested $3 billion in Poland. We were effectively NBC, CBS, and Fox put together in Poland. We're the only provider of news in Poland besides the Polish government, and we have a 24-hour news channel. And it meant a lot to me because that's where my family is from. About 100 years ago, my grandmother left Poland with her mother, and they left with nothing. And the rest of my family was lost in the Holocaust. And Poland is a great country. They have about 4% GDP, a very young population, an educated population, a great television market, and things were going okay, but they have a tough government. And the government decided to take a position which they called the Holocaust Bill. And it was that if anybody said out loud that Poland had anything to do with the atrocities of the Holocaust, they would face up to 3 years in prison. And it was just at that time that Georgette was taking office as ambassador. I went to see her. I talked to her about our business. We're the largest U.S. company doing business in Poland. I talked about what a great country it was, how much it meant to me, but also how scared I was about what was going on. And I think when I think of Georgette, I think of a few good men, because we had a huge investment in Poland. And Georgette said, in her very direct and candid way, I got this. And Georgette is the person that, she's the person you want on the wall. She's the person that you want when you want to go to sleep at night and not worry, and someone's going to make sure that you're protected. She made sure that we were protected. That bill was pulled. She's been a fighter against anti-Semitism. You know, there were over 3 million Jews in Poland. There's less than 3,000 now. And that bill itself activated a tremendous amount of anti-Semitism. The 70th anniversary, 5 years ago, of the liberation of Auschwitz, a group of us, some of you are here, we took 150 Holocaust survivors there. We all went there for over a week, Steven Spielberg, myself, and a big group. A couple of weeks ago was the 75th anniversary, and Georgette was there. She was there with strength, she was there with a voice, and she's she has a great heart and a great fight for not just Jewish values, but American values. It's making sure that whatever your ethnicity, whatever your color, you have a great chance to succeed. And she's turned around the relationship in Poland, and she's an incredible person, and I'm super happy that I have had a chance to spend a lot of time. She spends a lot of time with our team in Poland, and she's got our back, all of our back. So Georgette Mosbacher, we're going to see a quick tape, and then we're going to give you an award, and we thank you for all the great work that you do.
Oh, you should be a little. Leave it on that side. Where's the Hannah or
I can't tell you how honored I am to be here this evening. And particularly, I'm humbled to be part of this very distinguished group that's being honored tonight. David, I don't know what to say. David Zaslav really is truly a champion of Jewish values. And to be introduced by him tonight, a great deal to me. Thank you, David. I'm going to keep my remarks very, very short because I'm just going to tell just a quick little story. A year ago, Passover, some friends invited me over for Passover dinner. And I called my team at the embassy and said, tweet out, Happy Passover. I didn't have any agenda, really didn't think much about it. And the next day, what came back was horrifying to me. It was an epiphany moment for me. I truly don't think I appreciated the hate, the ugliness. I remember saying to myself, who would say these things, let alone type these things or write them? I mean, what kind of people would do this? And it reminded me of the lyrics that I want to share with you from South Pacific, Rodgers and Hammerstein. The name of the song was You've Got to Be Carefully Taught. You've got to be taught to hate and fear. You've got to be taught from year to year. It's got to be drummed in your little dear ear. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught to be afraid of people whose eyes are oddly made and people whose skin is a different shade. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught before it's too late, before you're 6 or 7 or 8, to hate all the people your relatives hate. You've got to be carefully taught. Those lyrics remind me that we all have a responsibility, a moral responsibility to teach that hate is not acceptable, that bigotry isn't acceptable, that racism isn't acceptable. You can't be indifferent. You can't be complacent. Because we teach love. We teach inclusiveness. We teach that we are all equal under God. As a Holocaust survivor from Poland, Roman Kent says, we have to teach that hate is never right and love is never wrong. Thank you for this honor.